So I'm here with Matt Wood from Volvo Trucks. Matt, we are in the Volvo FH Aero, is that correct?
Yes, the FH Aero Electric.
This is called a semi-trailer, right?
Yeah.
Excuse my ignorance.
No. It's a semi-trailer
okay.
because we've got one trailer on.
Yeah.
In Australia, we have semis, like just a single trailer. We have B doubles.
Yes.
Which you see a lot on the East Coast.
Truck and dogs, is that?
And you have truck and dogs as well. They're usually tippers.
Right.
And obviously out in the bush you have road trains and stuff.
We are driving to a track where he's going to let me drive this. We've got a trailer on the back, so this is the full kit and caboodle, shall we say. So this is a fully electric truck. It's incredibly quiet, by the way. So what's the range on this thing, Matt?
Look, up to 300 kilometres. I'm going to sound like I'm sort of playing weasel words here. I mean, there are so many variables for like the trailer, for example. So you might have a trailer that's got janky axle or something like that, and that might actually affect your range. But yeah, so we always say up to. But
right.
Yeah.
So how long's this truck been in Australia?
So we launched the Aero 2 months ago.
Okay.
But we've had the heavy duty offering on the Australian market for over 12 months now.
Wow.
And we bought our first electric trucks into Australia back in 2020, which were our smaller ones, were our what we call a medium duty.
Yeah, because you've got a range, haven't you?
Yeah.
So this is the kind of truck that would go long haul between cities, regional, is it?
Not in Australia. In Europe it would. So,
okay.
So the average long distance kind of trip in Europe is about 300 k's in a day.
Okay.
So in Europe they've got less driving hours than us. So they can only legally drive for 9 hours. Plus they're dealing with a lot more traffic. Here we tend to go from a distribution centre to a distribution centre when we do long haul.
Yeah.
Over there they're quite often direct delivery into where it's going. So they burn up a lot more time, and whereas in Australia we sit on the highway doing 100k an hour for hours.
Right.
Yeah, it's a very different kind of market. So this really is what I would say urban and outer urban.
Okay.
And I think eventually probably regional. And look, hopefully long haul one day, but let's see what that looks like.
I have to say these seats are incredibly comfortable. I'm like, why? It's going up and down. What's the deal with that?
So they're air suspended. So there's an air bellows in there, and because the truck's got a full air system, because truck brakes run on air.
Right.
So when there's no air, they lock on.
Gotcha.
So the electrical system's also driving a little variable speed compressor, and a happy side effect of that is we get a nice floating seat.
Yeah, honestly, it's like you're on a cloud.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Oh wow.
Yeah.
You're going to be building these trucks in Australia, is that right?
That's correct. So just down the road there, we drove past our factory.
So in Brisbane right now,
yeah,
so you know.
In Wacol. So we build Volvo and Mack trucks there. The plan is that as uptake increases, we're looking about 2027. We'll be building battery electric here in Australia as well.
That's brilliant. I love that. Absolutely love it. What's the charging speed on this?
They say 240. I've personally only seen 220 from a DC,
okay.
But that's using public charging.
Right.
So that's the only caveat I put on that one.
You have obviously a charger on site, so you can charge them.
Oh, we've got chargers all through the site. So when we picked up the trailer, we've got 2 chargers on site there.
Okay.
Back at our head office, we've got a bay of 10, and all
bay of 10.
Chargers.
Over 200 kilowatt chargers.
No, we charge the trucks off them because we're not a trucking business, so we don't need the fast charge, right? So they're all AC chargers.
Right.
We don't really need a DC charger. We don't need to charge them that quick, as opposed to a transport company.
Gotcha.
But all of those, all of our sites and all of our chargers are powered by renewables. So
including the whole factory?
Yep, the whole factory runs on green energy.
How good's that? That's brilliant. How many of these have you delivered so far?
So, including medium duty, we've delivered about 87, and with an order bank of over 100. And we've also got a bus business as well, and we've delivered about 180 fully electric buses.
Yep.
and we've got an order bank of over 450 of those, only going into WA.
Wow. And so this does strike me as very wide. And I remember reading that something had to be changed regulation-wise so that trucks like this could be on the road here. Is that right?
Yeah, so the rest of the world is 2.55 metres wide,
Right.
and Australia is always 2.5. So we're talking 5 centimetres.
5 centimetres.
Yeah. And
Wow.
that never included the mirrors, right? So like when you see a truck driving down the road like this one here, that width doesn't include those mirrors.
Which is wider than 2.55 when you include them.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Wow.
and the main regulatory thing we had to overcome was weight, because as you can see by the way a truck's made, and if you look at all the other trucks getting around,
There's a lot of trucks on the road here, by the way.
they're all, you can see that it's kind of function over form, right? They
Yeah.
kind of have to be that way to do their job.
Yep.
So you've only got so much real estate to put batteries on, and that made us about just over 7 tonne on the steer axle. And without getting too geeky, Australia is Australia is one of the few countries in the world that actually has a steer axle weight regulation.
Right.
So that was the challenge.
And what's the horsepower on this? Not that I know what I'm talking about.
So it's 660 horsepower, which for a truck is nothing to sneeze at.
Right.
The average truck you would see on the road most days would be 500 to 550, 580 horsepower diesels. There are more powerful ones.
Yeah.
We actually have the most powerful diesel truck engine on the market as well. But which people, when we recently launched it, everyone's like, why would you do that when you've got electrics? But the thing is, with your big powerful engine, you can actually re-gear the truck so it uses less fuel.
Yeah.
So it's actually a sustainability thing.
Wow.
It's quite funny. The commentary is very much like, how's that sustainable? You go, well, if you're saving fuel,
Yeah. Oh.
it's all a part of it.
So Matt, I was wondering about, there was a guy from the trucking industry I remember hearing on the radio, and he was saying, electric trucks will never take off because the newer trucks are doing those big long regional trips, and then when they start to get a bit tired and a bit less reliable, they get retired into the city fleet, and then they just take bits that break and then fix those trucks. So the dirtier, older trucks wind up being in our cities. So is that a massive advantage then with electric trucks in terms of pollution in our cities and noise?
Oh, absolutely. And it's something that's always kind of, it hasn't perplexed me because trucks are expensive. So they're a business tool, you want to get as much out of them as you can. But what has resulted is our safest, cleanest trucks are operating where there's nobody.
Yeah.
And our oldest trucks with the least amount of safety features are in our urban environment.
Where the people are.
And so we've just gone Euro 6 emissions in Australia, which is now finally in line with Europe.
Yep.
But there's nothing stopping me driving a Euro 0, Euro 1 diesel engine, which is horrifically dirty.
So I could be driving that because it was on the road from the beginning, and
there's nothing stopping me from going, delivering groceries in that.
so bad, isn't it?
So, the trouble with this argument is, I work for an OEM and everyone goes, well, you would say that because you just want to sell more trucks. But I think trying to stand back a bit from it, our vehicle fleet, our heavy vehicle fleet in Australia has an average age of 15 years.
Really?
So that's at least 2, if not 3 emission standards ago.
Wow.
So, it's quite
No
a
wonder
sobering.
it's so filthy in the city.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And look, there's some really, I should add to that, there's some really good work being done by a lot of the bigger fleets. You will see your groceries being delivered by a new modern truck and things like that.
And electric trucks in many cases.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So both Coles and Woolworths are using electric trucks for deliveries.
I've seen those around my area. It's brilliant.
Yep.
Absolutely brilliant. We need more.
Yes, we do need more.
We need more.
It's just, I think the thing is, the biggest argument I hear is, well, that'll look silly out in the middle of the Outback. You won't be able to charge it. You won't be able to pull road trains with them. You won't be able to drive it to Darwin. And you're right. But we're not suggesting that you should. So it becomes a little bit of a silly argument because we're literally just saying clean up what you can, and there will be a role for internal combustion engines in heavy transport, but it doesn't mean they won't be sustainable.
It's always an all or nothing argument with a lot of people, isn't it?
It is.
I say always, but it does just seem to be quite often, shall we say, an all or nothing, and it is frustrating because I feel like these things are incremental and we have to start somewhere.
Yep.
There are a lot of trucks around here.
Yes, we're in the industrial sort of, we're on the south side of Brisbane now, but we started from the industrial west. A lot of these trucks, maybe not so much the little distribution trucks, but a lot of the B-doubles you're seeing going past, the Intercapital, they're coming in to do, from Sydney, Melbourne or whatever, to do their deliveries, reload and get out of town.
Yeah, I have to say I'm so shocked by how quiet and comfortable this is. So there's a lot of room in this truck. It's actually much roomier than I realised. So down here between us, there's loads and loads of space. We've got the bed behind us here, loads of storage up above. So this is someone's lounge room we're sitting in, essentially, aren't we? / house.
Yeah. So if we're in Europe, I don't know if you've noticed that. So we're in a joint venture in Europe with a couple of our competitors actually to roll out heavy vehicle charging stations that are publicly accessible. Because as I said before, the average long haul trip in Europe is about 300 k's anyway.
Yeah.
So they're going to do their shift and then they pull up, charge, have something to eat, go to bed.
Yeah,
this is someone's house. So probably unlikely at the moment with the range in Australia. I've done a long haul trip in one of these. Took a little bit longer because I was using publicly accessible car charging.
Yeah. Right.
And I was in a semi-trailer, which was entertaining.
And how did you manage to pull it to charge it?
It was actually quite funny. So we delivered an electric truck to Canberra on the back of an electric truck, and so it was hilarious because
I bet you got some looks.
Oh, I did, absolutely. But the funny thing was, I still remember I was driving down the road and I'm like, what's that noise? I can hear this noise. And I look, probably 500 metres behind me is a diesel truck and I can hear it.
And you can hear it.
Anyway, but, so we were using we used the EV network because they're renewable as well, because we didn't want to burn a bunch of coal delivering an electric truck.
Yeah.
And look, for the most part, I only had to take the trailer off twice.
Right.
The rest of the time, I kind of jackknifed it. And you know when you're talking about icing,
you ice the entire bay.
I did the opposite. I actually blocked off the diesel bowsers in the roadhouse to charge my electric truck.
Oh, they wouldn't have liked that.
And the owners were really good about it because the thing is, it was such a curiosity.
Yeah, right.
People had come up and they just go, oh my God, it's an electric truck.
Is there curiosity amongst the trucking industry when they see, or is there a bit of that's rubbish and never catch on kind of vibe?
Bit of both. Bit of both. I was down at the Port of Brisbane and we were taking some photos and this guy hopped out of his truck to walk over to the fence and he goes, oh my God, is that electric? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I cannot wait. That looks amazing. And this is
great?
He hopped out of his diesel truck going, I love it.
That's so cool.
So they're out there, and there's some really passionate sort of advocates for it. As I told you, we delivered our first heavy-duty electric into WA a couple of weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago. And the owner of the company that bought that truck was just his whole fleet of company cars is electric. Their business it's a second-generation business, doing mine recycling and rehabilitation and stuff like that, and he wants to electrify everything as soon as he can.
Can we just clone him? Please.
But there are a lot of people that really want to make it happen, and what's really nice to see now is we're getting the family businesses embarking on that journey.
So
it's
not just
the big
corporate companies, right?
Yeah, so
that's great.
We had a company called Roadmaster down in Sydney. They're a second generation family company that refrigerated distribution. Yep. They've got a little FL.
So you've got a range of trucks, haven't you? Yeah. Different sizes.
Every diesel truck we offer has an electric equivalent.
Okay.
So, and what that means is, from an economies of scale perspective, they're built in the same factory on the same line.
Right.
So it could be diesel truck, gas truck, electric truck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
walk me through this cabin a little bit. So we've got lots of room here between us. So
Yep.
that would be for your bags and whatnot. Or just
You try and keep your bags away. Like,
Okay.
because if you're in an accident, the last thing you want to do is be clocked in the head by your toiletries bag. It's
That's true.
and so everything's sort of got a space. So, I mean, I'm going to generalise here, but like for the most part, all your clothes and everything will go in the overheads. Anything you want to access fairly readily will be close to you.
Yeah. So above your head there, that's a spot for a TV.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, that's
Amazing.
a spot for a TV. That's a smoke
TV.
detector.
And you've got the roller storage there.
Yeah,
You've got all your, is that a CB radio or something?
Yep. Yeah, that's the UHF radio.
Yep.
That's your lighting
And you've got
controls.
storage in the centre here. You've
Yep.
got a little bit of a nice skylight and emergency exit hatch.
Yep.
And then we've got the microwave above me
Yep.
and more storage underneath there. Curtains all around. I have to say, very impressed with the curtain situation. Then behind we've got the bed, which you said that can be raised. Behind the passenger seat raises up so you can watch telly. Got a fridge down the bottom there. I mean, it's just incredible what's been put in here to make it comfortable for people. Amazing.
And I don't know if you've noticed while we've been driving, but now we're up to speed. The mirrors pan around. We'll show you when we get off the freeway, but that's really cool. So they're just in a fixed position at the moment.
Yeah. I'm amazed by the cameras on this vehicle, actually. It's extraordinary.
So this vehicle's fitted with like our latest sort of sweater safety systems as well.
Right.
So right now I'm in a mode called pilot assist.
Right.
So it's actively just driving the truck. I've just got my hand on the, it's an autopilot. So I've got to have my hand on the wheel.
Is it like a fancy cruise control that kind of steers for you and does all that? And it's like you work. I love that in cars actually. When it's like you and the car are at one. You're just kind of dancing together.
Horse and rider at four.
Yeah, it is like that. Not that I've done a lot of that in my life, but yes.
No, that's right. So probably one of the biggest things about it. So that's only this truck's got electric steering as well. So that's how it's able to do that, which you find on a lot of cars.
Right.
But fatigue's a big issue in the transport industry, right? So, and also the consequences of having a health incident or something like that where you're driving, maybe a heart attack or whatever. If you become non-responsive, the truck will actually put the hazard lights on it and bring it to a stop on the road.
Wow.
Whereas traditionally you would have just gone off into another lane or whatever. So if I fall asleep, it'll...
And you start veering off. Stop?
It's steering itself anyway.
Yeah. So if you fell asleep and started veering off the road, what would the truck do?
It would bring it back onto the road, and it would cut power, and it would bring it and bring it to a stop.
That is incredible. And does it have, when you're driving, say a Tesla or something like that, say someone slammed on a brake or something came in front of you, does it have the technology to also avoid accidents to take over?
So it's got autonomous emergency braking.
Yeah.
So, and that's like all of those cars you're talking about. It's got a radar beam down the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's got a radar unit down the bottom, and then it's got a camera up the top, and they talk to each other. So the camera goes, so the radar says, hey, there's something there. And the camera goes, oh, that's what it is. And then it goes, oh, there's something there, and if you don't do anything, it will hit the brakes. But not only that, it will do the same for pedestrians or cyclists.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
if we're in heavy traffic, obviously because we're in Australia, I'm on the right side of the truck. As you can see, you probably can't see until you drive the truck, but down there is a blind spot.
Yes.
Now, if I've got my left-hand indicator on, that will be displayed there. But if I'm driving straight ahead and there's a cyclist there, it's very hard for me to see them.
Yeah.
But if I get too close to them, the truck will brake.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some footage the other day of someone on a bicycle, and it was a painted tiny bicycle lane, left turn, and the truck was there, and it just squashed the person off that they fell over, got their legs squashed, and it was terrible. So that completely avoids that. That's brilliant. Yeah, I'm amazed by the cameras all over this vehicle and just the visibility you have. It's extraordinary. It's an amazing thing. It's the future, right?
Another cool feature, or a feature I like, is it's got a function called IC. So the truck is actually reading a map as we're speaking. So it knows whether it's going uphill, downhill, or whatever, and it optimises the power delivery accordingly. So you're not driving down a hill, it'll actually
ease off.
Ease off.
Does it have regen?
Yeah. Yep. So, and I can change the drive modes here.
Yep.
And so I can put it into like a reduced mode just by pressing this button, and that'll reduce the power usage, and it'll, like the transmission actually went into neutral then, just so I could just coast. So if I put it back into this power mode, and
when you say drive, like you know, you do like sport, eco, like in a car, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's exactly the same. And the regeneration is this brake stalk here. So you just pull that on, and that activates the regen.
Yeah.
And what is amazing, there's a big hill just out of Brisbane called Cunningham's Gap, and I drove up there loaded. First time I ventured out into the bush in an electric truck.
Yeah.
The battery was getting right down. I was starting to get a little bit nervous. I got to the top of Cunningham's Gap on the way back. I picked up 22% of battery capacity just rolling down the hill.
Oh my god. Can't do that in a diesel truck, can you?
No. And what I like about it is it's just nice to have the ability to make your own fuel.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So that was very cool.
And so what's the longest trip that you've done? So obviously you must have done a lot of testing in Australia before this was sold. What's the longest trip that you did when you testing?
Just as I was talking about earlier, so the longest trip I've done in one hit was Brisbane to Canberra.
Right. How many kilometres is that?
1,400.
Wow.
And look, it took probably twice as long as it would in a diesel truck.
That's right.
And so, but we learned so much from it though, right?
Yeah, right.
So, because we use the EV network DC chargers all the way down, and so like you look at the capacity and you go, oh my god, 350 kilowatt DC, laughing. And you turn up there and you plug in and you're going, this is great, and you watch the needle go up, and then someone plugs their Nissan Leaf into it and it load shares.
Yeah.
So
that's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, and we hadn't sort of factored that in. The other thing was, as I was saying, is access. It was quite funny. We used a site in Western Sydney to charge on the second day, just as we were leaving, and we caused a lot of consternation because it was a really busy metropolitan site.
Right.
I did unhook the trailer, but that was the only place people were indignant. Everyone else was just fascinated.
So do you think that we need specific trucking charging put in as quickly as possible?
Absolutely.
So you go, that's the point that we know we always stop. It's regular, and there's food, and there's, you know, you can get everything you need. You're there for an hour or however long you need to be there. And actually, if there were more, you could stop for short amounts of time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the issues that we had was, one of the issues that we have is, so charging is, metropolitan distribution tends to be hub and spoke, right? So you take your load out, you go to a couple of shops, do deliveries, come back. So that's the perfect scenario of charge when you're loading, go and do your roll.
Yeah.
Charge when you're loading, go do your roll.
Gotcha.
Now, that works, but a lot of people don't have that grid capacity in their depots.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. So that's the ideal scenario.
Yep.
But the reality is they don't have the grid capacity at the depot. So that's where the dedicated heavy vehicle charging is needed.
Yeah.
And then that starts to make more sense. Drivers legally have to have brakes anyway.
What kind of brakes do they have to take? How many?
It's gonna sound quite prehistoric, but every 5 hours you need to have a half-hour break.
Oh, that's all right. That's exactly what you minimum.
Yeah, exactly, right.
That's 5 hours is a lot of straight driving.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
good.
exactly. So
5 hours of driving, half an hour stop. If you knew that there was a charger there, that would be the ideal scenario, right?
Absolutely, and like I think so. In our business, the spearhead was really our bus business. A lot of the technology in our trucks has actually come from our bus business.
Okay.
And I'm quite enamoured with like the bus business has done a couple of really cool things. You ever seen a pantograph or what? So the buses actually have a couple of charging terminals on their roofs. And at the end of the route, the driver's got to have a break anyway. So he pulls up under a pantograph, hits a button on his phone,
is
and
this
it
the thing
drops
that
down.
comes down? Yes, I have seen that.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So and that's probably I think those things potentially inductive charging some stage in the future have all got a lot of potential.
Yep.
But yeah, for longer haul trucking, it's definitely going to be, we need dedicated charging infrastructure for sure.
Have you had many drivers that were really like, oh no, this is garbage, and then gotten behind the wheel and gone, this is awesome?
Yeah, heaps. Not many people jump in them and go, this is terrible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because, I mean, we're gliding along.
Yeah,
like,
it's so comfortable, seriously.
And so, like, most people have seen the evolution of diesel trucks over the years. Diesel trucks have gotten a lot better now too.
Right.
But go back 20 years, and they were loud, they were smelly, they were rough. And we're gliding along. We're in an air suspended cab in air suspended seats, and
I'm sitting on clouds. Tell you.
I was driving along the other day. I could hear the cicadas in the trees.
And you feel like an electric car, you just feel really calm. Like, I can only imagine an old truck, that noise, stressful and dirty, and
it just makes you drive angry.
Yeah. There are a lot of angry truck drivers out there. Mind you, they're probably just annoyed at cars that brake suddenly in front of them.
Or pull in front.
Yeah,
is
pull
usually
in
the
front.
worst.
Yeah. Actually, I did have one more question for you.
Yeah.
So Volvo passenger cars are owned by Geely, so they're a Chinese company now.
Yep.
Are Volvo Trucks Chinese owned?
No, so AB Volvo, which is basically all the truck brands, still majority owned, based in Sweden, Swedish owned, and AB Volvo consists of all the truck brands, but also Volvo Bus, Volvo Construction Equipment, which has also been electrified.
Okay.
Penta, which is our industrial and marine engine brands as well, and there's probably a few other business units in there, but they're the main ones. Our construction equipment. So I'm really geeky about machines. So you don't tell me to shut the hell up whenever you want.
Oh, this is awesome.
But we're actually now electrifying all our construction equipment, which is great because these are operating where people are, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
And I was.
What kind of equipment are we talking about?
So excavators, wheel loaders, things like that.
Yeah.
We had this great example where I was talking to a customer in Oslo, and they've got all their tip trucks are electric. They're all Volvo electric, and they've started electrifying all their construction equipment. And they were working on a project in a park, and they'd started work, and then they had to stop and go and ask the yoga class to move because they were too close to the machine. So
they wouldn't have been anywhere near that if it had been a diesel.
No, exactly, right? So
it is so gross walking past construction sites and just this. And you're right, they're going all day. Oh, thanks, Matt. That is absolutely brilliant. I've learned so much, and I'm so excited because heavy vehicles, and those last mile trucks, we just need all of that stuff electrified as soon as possible. And this is the beginnings of it. And I just love that they're going to be built in Australia. That's just so great. So thanks for speaking today.
No worries at all.
Legend.